Hi, welcome to Marlene at Home. And I'm Marlene from the Carroll County Public Library North Carroll branch. And I appreciate you watching. Today I'd like to talk about my journey to librarianship on this beautiful fall morning. And early, but just enjoying the prettiness of the day, some fall flowers for a little bit of a setting. But I answered the telephone at the library the other day and someone said, I would like to speak with someone on the information staff, please. And it just reminded me of how much fun it is to hear the very interesting stories of the different journeys of folks working in the library. Rarely, it's very varied how the process came about for people working in the library, and very few planned, like from childhood, I want to be a librarian. They might have loved the thought of it, but actually doing it and making plans for it just somehow didn't happen. But there are some exceptions. But how do you get here? What's your journey? And I've been to many library meetings where, as an icebreaker kind of thing, they ask people to tell about their journey of getting into being an information librarian especially. And it just amazes me. I asked around my branch, some people, you need a bachelor's to a 4-year college degree to become an information librarian. Information librarians are in the children's department and the adult department. And so, but our majors in college were also different. In asking around at my branch, there was a fine arts major. There was someone that majored in middle school education. There are music majors, there are education majors, there are finance people, there are people with degrees in technology and so many different things. And it just adds a lot of variety. For me, I went to college and had a bachelor's in biblical education, Bible and education. And so it gives us such depth and breadth across the library staff of our expertise, our knowledge, our background, and how we use it in library life. Of course, here's the other star of the show today, running all around, but I just made him sit here for a minute rather than tripping me and distracting me. And Cooper, are you a good boy? Are you going to be a good boy for the show? And were you playing with your ball? Yeah, were you playing with your ball? Good boy. My first librarian job was during a summer of college, and it was in the research and development library of an oil company, the Sun Oil Company, and I loved it. It was very interesting. Not that those topics and gathering research information for chemists would be my lifelong dream, but it did open the door for me about various libraries. And I had been in libraries all of my life as a child and through middle school, high school. I was a lover of reading and a lover of libraries. But anyway, after I graduated from a Christian college with my degree in Bible and education, I was wondering how I would combine those two topics, what kind of jobs I would get. And I remember that in the 7 years between college and having children, I had a variety of jobs. I worked at the Franklin Mint, which is not in existence anymore, but as I worked there also in a summer, in college summers. And so anyway, then they offered me a full-time job when I finished college, and so it was great to move right from one thing to the next. And they talked to me about being a research librarian. And they said how rarely, they do a lot of religious coins, but rarely do they have someone with a degree in religion or something religious. And they were like, we have all these religious coins. And you know, they would do a set of coins on Jesus and his 12 disciples, or saints down through history, or whatever. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I considered that, but around the same time, my husband was accepted to seminary. We debated about taking that position and driving an hour or two to work every day, but we decided not to do that. Instead, we took a very unusual turn, and we became estate managers for someone that had been a pro sports athlete and then moved into broadcasting and TV. And so he and his wife were very dear to us, and that was an amazing journey. That was during Paul's seminary years. Also during that time, We were leaders of a college and career group at our church, and we're very involved in our church. So that blended with our Bible degrees and Paul being in seminary. And then at a point, I became a receptionist for a periodontal office for a few years. And that led up to when we had children and when Paul became a pastor. And so I was very busy with babies. We had 2 daughters. I was a pastor's wife, and so lots of things involved there: children's, ladies ministry, music ministry, lots of entertaining, all those kinds of things. But I was blessed because for 18 years I got to be a stay-at-home mom with my kids. But then before you know it, your first one's going to college. And you're like, oh, how are we going to afford that? And so the Lord provided in amazing ways, but my kids got lots of scholarships, thankfully. They both worked, but there was still that gap. And so I needed to work. I'm thinking, all right, out of the job market all of these years, what am I going to do? And my first job was with Carroll County Public Schools as a substitute teacher. I chose the schools right around where I lived, right around the North Carroll branch, and I just loved it. I thought I would do elementary, but they needed middle school and high school teachers more, so I took those jobs, and for 17 years I did that. And I just loved it. Middle school was my favorite. But in addition to that, the following year after starting subbing, I became a sub for the Carroll County Public Library North Carroll branch as an information sub. And that's really when my life began in library world. At first I was an information sub, and then within a matter of months I applied for a part-time information library associate, we call it, but an information librarian. And so I worked at the library 3 days a week, and then the other days of the week I would be a substitute teacher. And some days I would be subbing at school till 3 o'clock, run across the parking lot, come to the library and work the school would end at 2:30. I would start at the library 3 and work 3 to 9. And so for many years I did that combination, and I really loved it. But there was a children's supervisor at the North Carroll branch, Claudine Hanner. They kept encouraging me, you should get a library degree. You would be really great at this. You should get a library. You should move up. You should become a library, a supervisor in the library world. And I was like, Claudine, I've been out of school for years. I've got 2 kids. I'm putting through college. How would I fit this in? My ministry life, I'm just going morning, noon, and night. But she just constantly kept encouraging myself as well as other staff. We should try it. And so Jim Bitzel and I, our North Carroll children's supervisor, we went to library school together. And really, I put my toe in the water and said to Claudine, I'll try one course, because how can I do this? I'm working 2 part-time jobs, kids, church life. How will I do all this? But little by little, I was like, my excuses were I didn't have time, I didn't have money, and I'm too old for this. But I went to library school, and I was not the oldest one there. There was a number of people older than me, but I took one course and did well, so I'll just take one more. And thankfully, I was able to get scholarships through the Maryland Library Association. Carroll County Public Library also assisted me. And so a 3-year program, I finished in 2.5, and believe it or not, because every course I ever took, I thought I was going to fail. And believe it or not, I finished in 2.5 years with a 4.0, and I still can't believe it. It's pretty miraculous, I'll tell you that. But one of the things that really interested me in the library world was I love the 200s, that's the religious section. Carroll County Public Library has lots of Christian fiction. I was very familiar with a number of those authors, Christian music, and so once again, I'm blending the 2 things that I love, reading, religious topics, education, all those kinds of things in the library world. It was kind of weird, crazy. We would go to library school 1 week in a month. We would use vacation time, take off on a Friday afternoon, drive to Harrisburg, which is where we took our courses for Clarion University, and be there all late Friday night, all day Saturday. Then come home with all kinds of work and online courses, and it was a challenging time, but we did it, and my husband loves to tell how old I was when I graduated. Honey, how old was I when I graduated?
58.
Yikes! People are like, I'm retiring younger than you, and I'm just getting started. And but I was really thankful. And of course, I finished, and there was a job freeze. Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? It was a downturn in the economy, and I was wanting to be an adult services supervisor because that requires a master's in library science or library information, and I just had to wait my turn. And I did take a job for 3 years at the Mount Airy branch, a full-time position, and what we call as a Library Associate 2. It's the supervisory position that you don't need a library science degree for. And so I just loved my years at the Mount Airy branch, and the patrons, the people I work with, it was a great time. Just the hour-plus ride in bad weather was not my favorite. But it was a wonderful time, and sure enough, back at my home branch, the North Carroll branch, the Adult Services Supervisor position became available, and I was back at my home branch. I've been with the library 22, 23 years. Other than 3 years of that time, I've been at the North Carroll branch. And so I'm very, very excited. I've had this position 5, 6 years, and I'm back at home. As the Adult Services Supervisor, I have a staff of 3 in the Adult Information Department. Children's has a staff of 2. So the people at the library that require a master's degree in library science would be the branch manager, and many of you know Daryl. And by the way, Daryl was in real estate for years before he came into the library world. And a number of our staff members have a business background. Then there's the children's supervisor, so there's the people that require a master's degree in Carroll County Public Libraries. In the branches would be the branch manager, the adult services supervisor, which is my position, and the children's supervisor. And as I mentioned, the children's supervisor has a staff of 2. And so what does an adult services supervisor do? And just very quickly, our number one, everybody in the library, our number one responsibility is customer service, connecting customers to what they need. And whether it be on the phone or face-to-face or out of the building at an off-site program, that's our number one responsibility. For the adult department, we also oversee adult programming, be it online like this program is, whether it be face-to-face in the branch, excuse me, whether it would be outside of the branch. I lead 2 adult book clubs at the North Carroll Senior Center. And so children's department, information staff, just this week, they were at Charlotte's Quest doing outside programming. So you'll see them in a lot of places outside of the branch as well. But each information staff person, whether in children's or adults, they have specific sections that they're responsible for, and it changes over the years. Might do this, these sections will be yours for a year or 2, then it might change, or every year, it just depends. And so anyway, every info staff has a part of the collection that they're responsible for. In adult, we break up fiction, like my fiction section I'm responsible for is K to M, but the rest of the alphabet is broken up amongst the other adult information staff. So that's my 3 staff people. That's myself, as also Darryl Robertson, our branch manager. And then we also have kind of like our specialties. Well, let me just go back first of all to sections we're responsible for. But they also often are the things that we really love and become like our specialties or our expertise. So like, say you had a question about movies and it was a harder question, and Darryl would be the movie person. And of course, he's an extensive reader, so he can answer you all kinds of things. I always say to Darryl, he knows about the scary books that I could never read. But anyway, we have like Linda, her specialty, she loves mysteries, and she does our music CDs. And Donna is our romance person and books on CDs. And I'm just telling you a few of their things. I'm not giving you all of them, these sections. Mark is our young adults person in graphic novels, and Darryl does adult graphic novels. Science fiction. For me right now, the 100s and the 200s, which I've already told you, I really enjoy the 200s. Biographies, another one of my loves. Large print, instructional DVDs. All of us not only have print collections, but a non-print thing like DVDs or movies or books on CDs or music CDs, that kind of thing. But don't feel overwhelmed, like I could never be a librarian, I could never do, because as an information staff member, you need the 4-year degree, but then as soon as you come, within the first 2 years, you do library training. That's a number of hours and pretty extensive training that the library provides, and so that's really great. As well as all of your years as an information librarian, you will be doing the state-required continuing education classes like education does, nursing does, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, we have a number of nurses that work at the library as well. But you know, in this era where many people are looking for jobs, I would love for you to consider libraries for employment, because there are all different kinds of positions. I've been talking about the sections that I work in, the information department, but then I never even mentioned that the biggest department in each library branch is the circulation department, and that's a whole other field, and they are amazing people. They do all kinds of things that information people don't handle as well. But anyway, and you don't need a library degree. You don't need a 4-year degree even for that. And so lots of different possibilities, part-time, full-time, in both sections. And so I really, if you enjoy working with people, I can honestly tell you I am never bored, and that every day is different. You never know what your day is going to be like. And so that you might want to consider employment at a library. Well, any of us at the library will be glad to talk to you about what we do and how much we love it. And a number of college students work for us, high schoolers. So anyway, we could not do it without every single part of the puzzle in our library life. Well, thank you for joining me and hearing about my journey to librarianship. I hope you have a great day. And thanks for watching Marlene at Home.